Hello everybody, this is Professor McDermott, and this is your video introduction to Module 4. We've reached part 2 of the course already. My, how time does fly in these 8-term courses. First of all, I just want to say I'm very happy that all of you are still with us. We still have all 12 members of the course. No one has dropped out. And I really appreciate that, and I think that's a testament to how well you've cooperated with some of the unusual expectations in this course. And really, I think you've settled into a very nice groove and gotten into the rhythm of these discussions, especially. So I just want to thank you for staying with me and really giving this your best and not giving up. So what I'll normally do in these video introductions, first of all, is to recap some of the discussions that you did have, which I enjoyed very much. We have 2 modules of discussions to cover. First of all, in Module 1, the issue was Manifest Destiny, the relations of United States citizens with the Indians. Group 1, you had a document by Frank Mayer, who was a buffalo hunter who many years after the destruction of the buffalo wrote down his memories of how that came about. And Group 1, I thought you did a very nice job of bringing out the wastefulness and really the short-sightedness of this process. Mayer says, we had killed the golden goose. And as you pointed out very well, what he meant by that was that they had a gold mine right in front of them in the form of the buffalo, and yet through carelessness, through wastefulness, they simply killed that golden goose, destroyed the source of their wealth. Group 2, you had a document by Richard Pratt. He was the headmaster of the Carlisle Indian School. And in this document comes the famous phrase, kill the Indian and save the man. And you explored what that meant, and I thought you did a very nice job saying that really Pratt wanted to bleach the Indians, in a sense destroy their culture. It should be said that he did this in his own mind out of humanitarian motives. He really thought this was the only way to save the Indians' lives, was to destroy their culture. He felt that unless Indians assimilated to American culture, they were doomed to destruction, doomed to extinction. And so he had good intentions, but the methods he used we might certainly question. You also brought out a very interesting feature of this when Pratt compares the treatment of the Indians to the treatment of blacks. And he points out that even though blacks in a way were second-class citizens in the late 19th century, they were assimilated to American culture. I mean, they spoke English. They basically shared a culture with white Americans, and that was because they lived together, they saw each other and interacted with each other on a daily basis. Whereas the Indians were pushed aside onto reservations, and Pratt makes the point that it's impossible if your goal is to teach the Indians American culture to do that while they're essentially segregated on reservations. Of course, we'll see later in the course when we talk about Jim Crow how the experiment of segregation was later extended from Indians to blacks themselves with very serious consequences. Finally, Group 3 had a document from a young girl who had grown up into a woman who had been educated at one of these Indian schools in the East. Her name was Zit-Kala-Sa, and I thought you did an excellent job of bringing out how the missionaries lured Zit-Kala-Sa to the school, basically by exploiting her childlike curiosity. They told her the trees in the East were filled with apples, and she was very excited about that. And she was also incredibly excited about her first train ride. But when she got to the school, she was shocked, culture shock. And one of the main aspects of the culture shock had to do with the hair styles and the clothes that the students were expected to wear. And you pointed out very accurately that when they cut Zit-Kala-Sa's hair off, she was absolutely horrified because in her own tribe, in her own culture, having short hair for a woman meant that you were either a prisoner or you were in mourning. And in either case, in a situation you didn't want to be in. And so this was considered shameful. So what we have here is a case of cultural misunderstanding that really hurt the ability of white Americans and Indians to communicate with each other during this period. And finally, I agree with you, your conclusion on the third question, that even though for many, in many ways the school was a negative experience for Zit Khalasa, it wasn't totally negative. After all, I would add to your conclusions that if she hadn't been to the white American school, she wouldn't have been able then to get an education, which she then used to go back and help her own people, to help them in their dealings with American leaders. And so really, I'm very excited and encouraged by the way you guys have taken to these discussions. My only slight criticism would be to say, when there is no answer thread, when it's just a question I want you to discuss, I'd really like you to get in there and mix it up a little bit more. That is, don't be afraid to disagree with each other and pick on those points of disagreement. That's how we learn, after all. I know you're very nice people, and sometimes we're afraid to say anything we might offend somebody else. But really, take advantage of this opportunity to get in deep and discuss these issues. But overall, I would say an excellent job. Also, don't forget the focus thread. From now on, I'd really like you to carry out your discussions after you make your initial posts on the focus thread, simply because I think it will be much simpler for you to keep track of that one thread rather than having to monitor 3 or 4 or 5 threads at the same time. Okay? In closing, I want to mention that your first exam will be open through 11:59 p.m. on Monday, June 6th. And I'm a little worried because the people in the online studies office haven't really heard from anyone, and I've only seen one ProctorU reservation. So please, if you haven't already made arrangements to take the exam, soon as you finish watching this video, please do so. If you're using ProctorU, you need to make a reservation with them. If you're using the Darton Testing Center, you can just walk in on Monday anytime between 8:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. Be sure, though, to bring your Darton ID. I really don't want anyone to get shut out of this exam. All right, well, thank you for all your hard work. I know it's been difficult. I know it's been very fast-paced, but really just want to say I admire your effort. Let's keep it up, and let's go even deeper as we move into the second part of the course.